Welcome, family. Welcome once again. We are continuously looking at events that are happening in the nation. Live with Chatufa, the gospel of the freedom of the Zimbabwean people. We are looking once again at many occurrences that are happening as we are walking slowly towards the freedom of the Zimbabwean people. The season of change is now. The season has come. The blue train is on the move. The road is straight, and we are heading towards the freedom of the Zimbabwean people. We are having a story today that is very shameful story of Chigumba and Zek shamelessly endorse Putin's Russia Sham election. We have seen MAKANYARA Chigumba in Russia having gone there to monitor the elections of Russia, elections that are not elections at all. And as she came out so proudly, giving a report endorsing the very same fashion. And when she was reading this statement, I saw myself again back to that moment where we are watching her, especially giving all those false figures, and at the end of the day, declaring that I, MAKANYARA, Priscilla MAKANYARA Chigumbo, hereby declare Emmerson Mnangagwa the winner. And I was taken there exactly when I saw her reading that report about the elections in Russia. I had wanted to go into the depth of the history of Putin so that people could understand who Putin is, where did Putin come from, how come he is where he is, what did he do, and all the like until we would come to the very last show. But I can tell you the history of Putin is very dirty, beginning from him being KGB, beginning from him being an intelligence, a secret agent actually, and he had to take over power also from a man that had groomed him. So, things like that are issues like that are very very painful when they happen in nations. And we know how he ended up, holding on to power and using the Orthodox Church and things like that. And he penetrated the church and he caused a lot of corruption within the church. We know what happened, because up to this time, the church in Russia is really behind Putin, and it's so sad. And you remember the opposition leader at one point of Russia who wanted to be killed and he had to skip the country. He ended up being poisoned when he was in the UK. I think it must be the UK, when he was actually held in prison. And somehow Putin had to make sure that he reached that guy and eliminated the guy. And I once gave you on this show a man that was also an M16 guy who had information about the dirty deals of Putin, and at one point he fled, and he was now in the United Kingdom. I think he was in London, staying in London, and he was visited by some guys in his hotel room, and those guys poisoned him with polonium. And if you can go and watch a show that I did on this very channel, where I said what substance is Emmerson Mnangagwa injecting on the abductees, on the people that he abducts. There's a video that I did on that. You can go and watch it. It will show you some of the dirtiness of Vladimir Putin and the things that he does. He's a very ruthless man. He's a man that kills so smart, and he's a man that can even put poison on an umbrella tip. An umbrella tip, just they make umbrellas, and on the tip it will be very sharp, and that sharp point can be just dipped in poison, and somebody will be holding an umbrella like they are just innocent. But when they meet you either from the back or meet you right face to face, they will pretend like their umbrella has just pricked you, not knowing that that sharp prick that you have had there, it is actually poison that has already entered you. And I can tell you most of these poisons that are coming into Zimbabwe, that ZANU-PF is using, the chemical warfare, are poisons that are coming from Russia. Russia is one of those countries that is very deadly in terms of chemical warfare, and it is all thanks to Putin. And Putin becomes the very correct ZANU-PF friend, and they are the Russians and the Chinese are the all-weather friends of ZANU-PF. And this is the scenario that we face even up to now. That is why we are not surprised why Zek and Chigumba will be invited to go and monitor the elections in Russia. And Putin is coming back again, I think, for the fourth or fifth time as a president. Just imagine, fourth or fifth term. Just imagine. And we have MAKANYARA Chigumba endorsing that as a free and fair election, and even saying Russians have shown their democracy and things like that. And I can tell you there is a lot of intrigue right in Russia, especially after the Ukraine war started. Putin has started to force young people into the army, recruiting by force people into the army, and many people started to fled. Many young people fled Russia and started to enter into other neighboring countries because they were running away from this forcible recruitment into the army. And the war has costed Russia so much. It has costed, people, soldiers have died. Many people have died, and even ammunition and also the costs. And remember, when the war started, also there was a pipe that was in the sea that was bombed, which was taking gas to Europe. Excuse me. It was actually coming from Russia, because Russia supplies gas also to the European countries. There was a huge pipe that was bombed during the start of that war, and it costed Russia billions and billions, while the war at the same time was causing billions and billions. And the relationship of Russia, of course, with other countries in the Middle East and those other Arab countries, they've started coming together and making some concessions, especially with the oil-producing countries, because all they were trying to do, they're trying to go against the US dollar. When you see them coming up with the BRICS, where South Africa is also part of, they are thinking that they can pull down the US dollar and then introduce a new currency that can be adopted by the world. But let me tell you, the systems that the United States of America is planted in the whole world in terms of monetary control, I don't see what they could ever do to be able to do that. And USA has continued to put Putin under sanctions. And this very last month or so, there have been some new sanctions that were targeted again on Putin and Russia. And it is said that the Russia so far, no country of the world has ever been under so much sanctions than what has happened to Russia under Putin. And a lot of Russians are also disgruntled. And you remember, there was a group of mercenaries who were helping Russia to fight in the Ukraine war. And what happened was there was a trustee, a guy that was trusted by Putin. And this guy ended up turning against Putin. He came back with his army, and they started coming right to Moscow. And they took over quite a number of towns before they could reach Moscow. And Putin was actually in danger to the point that he had to be taken out of Moscow, because that army was coming seriously. It was like a coup, which was really coming to happen there in Moscow. So later on, there were negotiations that took place, and they did not proceed going on. But we understand that later on, some of those guys had to go to Belarus, and they were taken care of in Belarus there, and some other countries. That army, like that unit, ended up being dispersed. But and some guys ended up dying. Some of those commanders of that group, of that army, that were turned against Putin. So there's a lot actually that I could talk about Russia, but all that we can say is this guy is a serious dictator, and there's a man that eliminates, is a killer, and there's a man who does not think twice when he wants to eliminate an individual or a people. So we are seeing these kind of people being the friends of Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF, and also to the point that we see the Electoral Commission of Zimbabwe going there and also giving a chance to endorse such a shame of an election. So I just want us to look into this video of the ZEC leader pronouncing the elections. Right, so we are taking this tweet from the ZANU-PF Patriots. They're saying Zimbabwe observers declare Russian poll free and fair. Right, the Zimbabwe Election Observer Mission to the 2024 presidential election of the Russian Federation has declared the election free and fair and credible. The delegation was led by Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Chairperson Chigumba. The Observer Mission commended the people of Russia Federation for exercising their right to vote in a peaceful environment. People are threatened. People are not voting peacefully. People are actually in fear. If you look at the figures only, you can tell all the other three guys. If you look at these are the participants in the election, and one of them being Putin, and the other 1, 2, 3. If you combine their figures, the other three, they don't get to 10% of the vote, and Putin has the rest, which is 87%. So you can just imagine what is happening there. Right, let us hear Makanyara Chigumba speaking her hypocrisy here.
On the voting atmosphere, we found the general atmosphere to be conducive for elections. The mood was relaxed and cheerful as people were exercising their right to vote. It is our view that this is a clear sign of a mature democracy in which elections are not perceived as a life and death activity. Honorable Chairperson, we wish to applaud the CEC for the use of schools and other existing infrastructure, which we believe significantly reduced the cost of the election, but more importantly, made it easy to direct voters to relevant polling stations. In conclusion, the Zimbabwe Election Observation Mission to the 2024 presidential election of the Russian Federation commends the people of the Russian Federation for exercising their right to vote in a peaceful environment. The mission also commends the CEC for managing the election in an efficient and professional manner. The Zimbabwe Observation Mission would like to congratulate the people of the Russian Federation for the high voter turnout and for their overwhelming expression of their democratic right to vote.
So there it is. There it is. Yeah. So, like I was saying, that as she was speaking with that voice of hers, it took me really to that very moment where we are waiting for the announcements of the election results. And, with heart thumping from inside our chests, just imagining what is going to be said, while at the same time we are very, very skeptical of that individual, that face and that voice is associated with, dishonest and, pain for the Zimbabwean people. And this is why I have seen Zimbabweans lambasting her over the issues that have to do with the health issues. I don't know. There is what is trending on social media, like a hand that belongs to her and some leg which is in some foot, which really in some shoe, which really shows that there is this individual's health may not be in the good shape. But people are saying it's her. Well, I'm not saying that. I don't know about it. But people were just talking about it, and there was a lot of controversy over it. Some people saying you cannot be mocking somebody over their health. And most of those people that were complaining about that were ZANU-PF people. And they were saying, you guys, you are mocking somebody about their health. And those that are probably against ZANU-PF, I don't want to say in the opposition, let me just say against ZANU-PF, they were saying, we want us to sympathize with her over health issues, and yet this woman has caused the suffering of the Zimbabwean people, has caused the poverty in Zimbabwean people, has caused all the wickedness that ZANU-PF is doing, because she is the one that is delivering an electoral victory, a fake electoral victory on a silver platter to Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF. And at the end, Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF will start to kill Zimbabweans, cause people of Zimbabwe to suffer, people dying in hospitals, in road accidents, of roads that are not properly maintained and things like that. So the people were actually saying this woman is actually more of a murderer than somebody that you could want us to sympathize with when it comes to her health. But indeed, if it is her hand that is circulating on social media and that leg, indeed it is a sign that the lady is not in good health. Definitely, it doesn't look good. But that is what we are looking at. We are saying Zimbabwe continues to associate with, or rather ZANU-PF continues to associate with very rogue governments and very rogue leaders of the world, people that are, that don't care about humanity and human life. They would rather, for the sake of their ego, do anything at the expense of the lives of other people. If you can imagine how many people have died in that war, the war has been serious. And up to now, many people, even the statistics, I don't think they are still being issued on how people are dying there. Right now, the focus of the world is shifted. Right now, it is on Gaza. It is on the war of Israel. As if the war in Ukraine is over. It's not over. The war is still on, but the world has already moved on. You see, it's like they've gotten to a point where they are just saying, no, we are fed up of this. But one thing that I understand is that there's a lot of disgruntlement within the military of Russia over Putin, because the last time Putin had to fire about 4 generals, he fired one of them being a guy who was very, very close to him. When they lost a certain town, when they lost about 3 towns to the army of Ukraine, And after that, the people that were promoted again, there is information again that there's also disgruntlement that anything can happen also to Putin. Putin could also be overthrown by his own army if the intrigue continues to be at the level that it is now. But anyway, we are still watching the space. We are still seeing what is going to be happening. But I can tell you, the presence of Putin has also enabled ZANU-PF to live longer for a very, very long time. That I can safely say without even hiding. I'm telling you, ZANU-PF has actually been helped so much by Putin to be still in power. China, Russia have been some of those states that have been enemies to the Zimbabwean people. So when you see them bringing their wheat and what and ZANU-PF running all over, in scarves, praising Russia for bringing bags and bags of wheat, that is just nothing to the Zimbabwean people. We don't want their wheat. We want them not to endorse or even to enable ZANU-PF to continue oppressing the Zimbabwean people. We need freedom in our country. We can plant our own wheat. We can grow our own wheat. We don't even need their hand in terms of bringing wheat and food to our country. We can plow in our own country. If it is successful, if it is running correctly and with everything done correctly and in the fear of the Lord, even the rains itself, they will start coming upon the nation in a very good way. And Zimbabwe can turn back again to a bumper harvest. So this is about it, family. This is what is happening. I saw a long comment here from Margaret Moffat. She says, that's why Mnangagwa is on Putin's side. Birds of the same feathers flock together. They don't care about anyone. Very wicked. This Chigumba, the wrath of God is on you. Just wait. I'm telling you, a lot of people, when they were talking about that issue of health, some people were saying that is God's wrath. And someone was also saying, why doesn't she just rig that health since she's a master rigger? But there are things that cannot be rigged. Yeah, there are things that can't be rigged. You can't rig economy, you can't rig facts, you can't rig truth, and you can't rig life. Those are things that you can never change. They have somebody that is above them who controls everything that happens there. So otherwise, this is about it, family. This is the issue that we were talking about. All that we are saying is we want to continue to demand the freedom of the Zimbabwean people. We need Zimbabwe to be freed from the clutches of the enemy, the clutches of ZANU-PF. Let us continue to stand and pray for the change champion, pray for the blue train. The movement is on, the movement is moving on. Even if they want to start to take that color, like we are seeing them starting to buy some other people giving them money to challenge the blue color. We know that the courts are captured. They can end up doing something, but still, that is not the color that will bring the new great Zimbabwe. It is God. Even if we move to pink, we can still take Zimbabwe in a pink color because it is about time. It is the season. The season has come and the season is now. So thank you for joining me, family. Till we shall be meeting again, I think around 6 o'clock, we'll be meeting on the main channel, Chatufa Television Production, where we'll be talking again about the next issue that we have. Just watch the thumbnail already on YouTube. You will be notified of the correct time. Otherwise, God bless you, love you so much. I sign out.